Well, global markets are in disarray today following an announcement by Donald Trump that he's imposing tariffs on all countries. In a surprise speech made yesterday, the US president said all countries must now pay at least a 10% export tax on goods sold in the United States, with some countries being billed as high as 80%. Trump claims the new tariffs are calculated based on each country's reciprocal tariff that they apply on US goods. But the numbers actually don't stack up. In fact, it appears to be more based around the trade deficits of each country. For example, Jordan, a country with a free trade agreement with the United States, will now be charged a 20% tariff, whereas Syria, who is still facing trade sanctions by the United States, is now being slapped with 40%. Under the Trump administration, tariffs have become a key trade and foreign policy, part of the president's America First campaign to retain manufacturing jobs in U.S. cities.
Wealthy again. My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day, waiting for a long time. April 2nd, 2025 will forever be remembered as the day American industry was reborn, the day America's destiny was reclaimed, and the day that we began to make America wealthy again.
But economists say the measures will not have the intended effect and will instead lead to record high inflation as manufacturers and exporters adjust their prices to account for the added levy. European Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen said the new tax imports would cause dire consequences for millions of people around the globe.
Israel stepped up airstrikes on Syria overnight, carrying out 11 attacks in the capital Damascus and the central province of Hama. Israel has declared the attacks a warning to Syria's new transitional government. They say it suspects Syria's new Islamist rulers of working with Turkey to turn the country into a Turkish protectorate. And Israel says they see this as a rising threat on its border. It comes as Israeli airstrikes kill nearly 100 Palestinians in Gaza in 24 hours and adds to a growing list of regional attacks. On Tuesday, 4 people in Beirut, for example, were killed by Israeli airstrikes that have tested the fragile truce with Hezbollah.
Now, a new report into the deaths of media workers in conflict zones says more journalists have been killed in Gaza than any other war in modern history. The Watson Institute for International and Public Affairs says at least 208 Palestinian journalists have been killed in Gaza since the 7th of October 2023, mostly by Israeli airstrikes. In fact, the report says that number is higher than the combined total of all journalists killed in both world wars, the US Civil War, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and the wars in Yugoslavia and Afghanistan. Last week, Mohammed Mansour, a correspondent for Palestine Today, and Hossam Shabat, a journalist for Al Jazeera Mubashir, were killed by Israel in 2 separate attacks. Since October 7, Israel has denied international journalists entry into Gaza, with the exception of limited tours, during which reporters had to be embedded with Israeli forces and approve interviews and footage with commanders before publishing. Now stay with us as we turn to Hungary's groundbreaking departure from the International Criminal Court.